My fiancé cheated on me, and now she wants half of everything I own for calling off our engagement. In my late teens I met a woman that I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with. She was the first girl I had a serious relationship with, and she was the first person I ever said I love you to. Yes, I know. I was young and naive. I've learned my lesson. Back to the story. We dated for a few years, and it was awesome. I got an apprenticeship with a construction company, and she was working 2 jobs to bring in extra cash. Both of us lived with our parents at the time, so we started house hunting for a place we could move into together. After a few months of working her second job, she started acting strangely. I chalked it up to stress, but looking back it was pretty clear that she'd found someone else and was pulling away from me. She bought her own car and started giving one of her coworkers rides home after work. She was a kind person, and again, I was young and naive, so this didn't ring any massive alarms for me. The thing that did raise an alarm was when I stopped by her job to surprise her with lunch and her coworkers had no idea who I was. I told them I was so-and-so's boyfriend, and one of her coworkers said that they didn't know she was dating anyone. I confronted my girlfriend about it later, and she told me she doesn't talk about her personal life at work very much. I believed her because I trusted her, but the more I thought about it, the more things weren't adding up. A couple days later she tells her coworkers invited her on a trip to Mexico. I told her it sounded like a fun trip, helped her pack and dropped her off at the airport the next day. When I saw 2 guys waiting for her, an uneasy feeling started growing in my stomach. I helped her get her stuff out of my trunk, hugged her goodbye, told her I loved her and watched her leave. The entire time I drove back home I couldn't shake my uneasy feeling. Somehow I knew that our relationship wouldn't survive this trip. The next day my fears were confirmed. I was scrolling through social media when she posted a video of her trip. In the video I could clearly see her making out with one of the guys I'd seen at the airport. I'll admit, I didn't handle the news very well. I went out drinking to try and drown my feelings, and the next thing I know I'm waking up in someone else's bed with another woman next to me. I felt so guilty about what I did that I immediately snuck out and drove straight to a jewelry store. A stupid decision, yes, but at the time I didn't know how much my girlfriend had done with the other guy, whereas I definitely had intimacy with the other girl. I proposed right there in the airport when she got back. She said yes, and life was good again. We were engaged for only 2 months. During that time she broke up with me 5 separate times over the dumbest things. She came over to my parents' place once to pick up some laundry. She was still living with her parents, I was still living with mine, and her clothes weren't completely dry yet. She started crying, grabbed them anyway, drove off and broke up with me over the phone once she got home. That was the first time. I was devastated. It happened 4 more times before I figured out what she was doing. The last time we broke up I was at work going through some mandatory training. She called me and said we need to talk. This is how she started every breakup. At this point I was done. She said she didn't know if this was what she wanted out of her life. Maybe we should see other people, blah blah blah. I agreed. I didn't want to be with someone who broke up with me whenever she got upset. I told her to come over after work, give me the ring back and I'll give her anything she left at my parents' place. Sounds simple, right? Of course not. She shows up at the door with her mom, gives me the ring, and I hand over all the clothes and bathroom stuff that was hers. She stares at the pile of stuff for a second before asking where the rest of it was. I asked her what she meant, because I was absolutely sure that I grabbed everything that was hers, and she told me that she wanted half of my stuff since we were engaged. Her exact words were, "As your wife I'm entitled to half, right?" I started laughing at her. No joke, even though I knew I was going to be devastated the next few days. At that moment I had absolutely no love or respect for her. I argued with her and her mom for a bit, who also thought she was entitled to more, before I explained that since we were never legally married, she isn't entitled to anything. The look on their faces as I kicked them out was priceless. My last words to her were, "Good luck, you're gonna need it." Bullet dodged. To this day it still confounds me. How can you possibly think you're entitled to half of someone's belongings if you never even married them?